Go. Okay, now that we've worked our way through trust and we've talked about conflict, we're ready to get to commitment. And a lot of times people want to talk about commitment without really establishing those two foundational items of trust and conflict. Because when we have those two things, commitment is really very easy, because we've been able to have great conversations about what the best things were, and we covered that in conflict. And now when we have a commitment, that we go forward together. And that's our first point. We move forward together. The second point is the team you are on versus the team you lead, and I'll explain that in a second. And then very important is ending with clarity. But John, let's talk about we move forward together. I'm sure you've got a lot of examples of that.
No, I think, first of all, I think with this idea of commitment, one of the things I'll often say to our players is, if it was easy, everybody would have a good team. But one of the things that really, differentiates the good from the great, or the okay from the good, is how committed they are. And so I think that's one of the big pieces, is having them understand that this is our opportunity. The level of commitment that we can bring can allow us as a team, if we're more committed than even potentially a more talented team, we can beat them on a Friday night if we are willing to outwork them, to go the extra mile individually and as a group. That this is kind of, I've always told our guys, is this is sort of our moment to catch people or beat people, when if on paper maybe we shouldn't. But I think selling them on this idea, giving them examples, in the football world, or even in the business world, where teams that were truly committed to something together really, came out in the end. And I think that's a great thing.
Yeah, and it's interesting too, because in sports, it's such an easy example of seeing teams that are highly talented that aren't necessarily the most winning teams. Right? And conversely, we see teams that on paper aren't as talented, but can win and go on to championship season. So talk about that a little bit.
Well, I know, like, for example, like when I was at Silverton High School in Silverton, Oregon, it was my second year there, and our team had gone from last place year before I got there to 5th place, and this year we came in 2nd place. And at the end of the season, the coaches vote for all conference, and we only had two of our players voted all conference first team, and the team that came in 4th had 7 players voted all conference, and we had beaten them and whatever else. But I told our team, I said, hey, I'd rather be the team right here that has 2 players recognized, but yet beats the team that has 7. So I think it can really be something that is kind of tangible. And I think that's something that, in the programs I've coached, from Foothill in Pleasanton to Silverton to Mountainside, where we prided ourselves in, we're really gonna out-commit the other team. And that's gonna be sort of our characteristic, our sort of identity is that. And I think, and then once you see some results, then the buy-in really happens. Because again, you're not going to become great without some level of commitment. And I think the players need to understand that. And I think finding ways to help them understand that is big.
And I think part of that, right, is also the willingness to sacrifice. Right? When you're willing to sacrifice your own department budget, your own personnel, to reallocate resources for the greater good of the organization, and you're sacrificing in that way, then that really shows a level of commitment to the organization and to what is the most important thing for the organization.
For sure. And I think as a leader, as a coach, as a manager, it's our job to point that out, to highlight that sacrifice, because that's where people will really buy in. Well, hey, look what this guy did, and he got recognized for it. Mm-hmm. He was I had a player at Mountainside High School. Our first year we had varsity football, we didn't have any seniors, and because the school only had 9th, 10th, 11th grade at that point, and he was our starting quarterback, and he did a good job. He kind of trudged along, and well, the next year we had a couple guys behind him that were going to play quarterback, or just kind of beat him out. But I said, well, you willing to play offensive tackle? And he said, yeah. And our team went on to the top 10 state ranking. But I pointed that out almost on a weekly basis, that, hey, how many teams have a quarterback that's going to be willing to play offensive line? And so by pointing that out, it kind of inspired other guys. Hey, I'll do this, I'll do that. I'll be willing to do it, because again, we're all on the same team. We're all moving forward, like you said, and we're all buying in. It's about the good of the group.
Yeah, and I think in the work environment, a really easy example of this is the end of a meeting, right? When we end a meeting, do we move forward together? And when we go out of this room, do we present it in a way that we made a decision as a team to the rest of our people? And that leads us into the team you're on versus the team you lead. So if you're a member of an executive team, right, and you come up with a decision, and that's the decision made, and you had good conflict around it, when you leave there, it's so important for you to represent that decision as part of your decision, whether you agreed with it or not, because your people are going to cue off of you. And if you go out of the meeting and you're like, I don't know if this is going to work, but we'll give it a shot. I don't know, they didn't take my answer, but whatever, we'll give it a whirl, right? If that's your attitude, then your people are going to feed off of that. And that's what we're talking about. It's so important to prioritize the team that you're on as the decision, and then the team you lead is where you want to represent that. Because if everybody is representing their departmental decisions, then it's chaos, right? And we don't get to that scoreboard item that we're trying to get to of understanding for business, maybe it's revenue growth, or it's membership growth, or it's income, or whatever it is, but we don't recognize that as the one most important thing.
Yeah, and I think part of that, one of the most important things, to me as a leader, as a coach, is leading by example. So if we're asking our players to be unselfish, and we as coaches have to model that. So we can, like you suggested, we have to be willing. If I'm the wide receiver coach and I wanted to run this particular play this week, and we ended up kind of not running it during the game, we have to be excited about what we are running and selling that. And I think that's something that leading, like you said, like the example with we'll give it a whirl. Like we ask our players to have good body language, to be resilient, and we as leaders have to do the same, because that's what's going to set the tone for the team that you lead. And I think you have to be a tone setter as a manager or a leader.
Yeah, and I think if you don't get that full commitment, you don't know if that solution ever really would work, right? So many times we ask, was it the plan or was it the execution of the plan? And I'm sure you talk about that with plays.
Right. Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah. No, I mean we all have to be bought in, because you can't go into something half-hearted, because if you do, you'll never know.
Yeah.
Whether that's a game, an offensive play, you have to have everybody. And that's part of this pyramid is building toward, getting the results is a consequence, and certainly this commitment level and how we sell that and how we model that for our group is critical.
Okay, so we're going to jump now to ending with clarity. And when we talk about ending with clarity, we're talking about making sure everybody's on the same page when we wrap up. In work, we'll call it the meeting, is that we know exactly where we're ending this meeting, so everybody is clear. Either we've got more research to do on this particular topic, or we're ready to move on this topic, or whatever it is, but everybody's clear and they know who's responsible for what and by when, so then we can continue to move things forward as an organization. I think we hear so much about frustration from employees of, we start things and we don't finish them. We get all these great ideas, but nothing ever happens. I don't hear ever what happened to that project that seemed like a great idea. But if we can really get to clarity, like there may be a good reason why we terminate a project, but if we don't communicate that out, like, hey, it just didn't make financial sense to do this, then people are left wondering. Right. So really getting to clarity will help with the next commitment, right? Because the staff knows that you as the leader are committing to getting clarity for everybody through the organization.
No, and I think that part of that is, why are we committing to this? I mean, that like with our football team, I'm asking them in the summer, we're gonna work out 4 mornings a week, Monday through Thursday. Here's why. I mean, it's not just something to do. Here's why we're doing this. Because we're gonna prepare ourselves. We're gonna outwork our opponent. We're gonna be better, more fit. We're gonna be stronger. I mean, I think giving them kind of the clarity can also include the clarity of why this commitment is critical. And I think if you tell them that, like, I think when I've done it, like my clarity with the mission is more not based on, you're gonna bench press 275 pounds by the end of the summer as much as a team, we're going to make 90% of the workouts all summer. We're going to have great attendance. We're committing to great attendance. And so it's something measurable more in you're committing to it versus like you're going to throw 10 touchdown passes in the first 2 games. So you want to be like my commitment is to this greater mission, and I think a lot of it comes through our willingness to just be on board. And like I mentioned that, our team at Mountainside, I mean, our first year we had 4 full classes. We had, 95% attendance in the summer. And then we went to the 3rd round of the playoffs. Well, that's was clear, like, hey guys, we committed and look what happened.
Yeah.
So I think making sure they understand that there's a purpose to the commitment, I think is important too.
So in the table group language, we talk about over communicating. First up is communicating and then over communicating, continue to. So exactly what you just said, John. It's the reinforcing the why behind the thing, and we'll talk about sort of the rally cry. What is our rally cry? What is our thematic goal?
Oh, yeah.
And those things like get people. That's how you can kind of sort of coalesce the team around the mission, and being very clear about that will get you to that commitment.
Absolutely.
So wrapping this one up. So for commitment, we want to move forward together. The team that you're on versus the team you lead, we talked about that, and then the importance of ending with clarity.
Great.